Hi, my name is April Gonzalez, and I'm a teacher at Wimburn Middle School. Today I'm going to present a session on easy digital lessons using a HyperDoc template to create engaging lessons. So the resources that you're going to get in watching this session is a ready-to-use HyperDoc template to make digital lessons easy for anyone to create. I actually have a HyperDoc template that is a Google Slides template, and there's also a Google Doc template that's a little simpler to use. The learning goals for this session is that educators will be able to use the HyperDoc templates to easily create a complete lesson plan using the distance learning framework. So if you're not familiar with HyperDocs, HyperDocs are an interactive document that uses hyperlinks to guide students through a complete learning sequence that is interactive and well organized for easy student navigation. Some of the features that are common to HyperDocs is that they create a coherent digital learning sequence. They organize an entire lesson into one document or slide deck to make navigation easy for students. Hyperlinks are used to make the document interactive and engaging. And they easily integrate a variety of digital tools and resources into one Google Doc lesson plan. So if you have been following a lot of trainings over the summer and you've learned a lot about these different digital tools, and you're thinking about using choice boards and Flipgrid and have students making podcasts and looking at storyboards. So if you've been very involved in kind of collecting all these digital tools and you're not sure how to deliver that content, HyperDocs are an excellent way to have students go from different tasks with different digital tools without kind of getting lost in the shuffle, because they're all linked from the same document. If you want to learn more about HyperDocs in general, I recommend hyperdocs.co. There is sample lessons, there are video tutorials, there's blogs on different HyperDocs, and it's a really good resource to learn to create your own HyperDocs. Today, primarily, I am going to be using a template. So this template is going to follow our distance learning framework. So this slide was developed by Soraya Matthews as part of Fayette County's distance learning framework trainings. And so the lesson sequence is going to start with a reader research task. Then students are going to do an explore task. They're going to do something collaborative. They're going to apply their learning to create some type of product, whether big or small. And then they're going to have a reflection piece over the lesson. Okay. And note that these learning frames can be stretched out over several days, or it could be a one-day lesson plan, depending on the types of activities that you're incorporating. Okay, so first I'm going to show you a lesson plan example using the HyperDoc template that I created. So this is the beginning of the microbiome unit. This would be the first lesson in the 7th grade Amplify curriculum. So I have my unit title, microbiome unit. I have my unit essential question: how can having 100 trillion microorganisms on and in the human body keep us healthy? I have the name of this specific lesson plan, Microbiome Lesson 1.1, Introduction to the Scale of Living Things. And I have the date that this lesson would be completed on, which I tentatively have as Monday, August 31st. Okay, so the next slide organizes a lot of those things that we're very used to putting on our whiteboard when we deliver content in person. So again, I have my lesson name, and here I've added in my guiding question. So this is my guiding question for this specific lesson, which is: how small are microorganisms that live on and in the human body? I have my learning targets listed. Students will be able to describe and give examples of microorganisms. They will be able to investigate the relative size of objects using the scaling tool. And their success criteria is defining microorganism in their own words and giving 2 examples of microorganisms and ordering the objects from smallest to largest using the scaling tool. I'm not going to show you the whole video, but one of the things I also did on this slide is once I had my slide deck complete, I did an overview of each section so that students would know what is happening for the day. So I'm going to play just the first bit of this video. And this video was created in Google Meets. If you've not used Google Meets often, one of the nice features of Google Meets is that when you record a lesson, it goes directly into your Google Drive and then can easily be linked into a Google slide presentation like this. Hi students, today we are going to do an overview of our first lesson in the microbiome unit. So when you look at your slide deck that you should be able to access from Canvas, you first see the unit title. So the unit we are beginning is called the microbiome unit. And our essential question for this unit is, how can having 100 trillion microorganisms on and in the human body keep us healthy? So this overview actually goes through every slide in the slide deck with a general overview of the types of activities they'll be doing in this lesson to kind of give students an overview, much the way you would do in an in-person class. And they can do this asynchronously because they have the video content to guide them through the lesson. So the next slide I have in my example is the reader research piece. So for this activity, I have students watching a video, and then this video actually introduces the unit. And if you were not a science teacher, the way our units are set up is each unit begins with a phenomena and giving students a role. So their role in this video is that they're going to be a student researcher. And so after they watch the video, there is a learning check. Based on what you saw and heard in the video, what do you think you will be working on in your role as researchers? So students can actually type directly into this document, into the Google slide, and then they're going to turn in their whole slide deck at the end of this lesson. The next task is an explore task. So for my explore task for this lesson, here's where I've really started with some of the HyperDoc linking. So I have a microbiome card sort. I notice the way I've linked this is that it forces me to make a copy. And that's what you want to do when you link something you want students to type in. And I'll go over that later on in this presentation, but you want to force it to go to make copy. What that does is it means that it doesn't alter your original slide deck. It just makes a copy into their Google Drive. So any modifications they make are just in their slide deck and not in your master slide deck. So what I've done to make this lesson interactive is I have the first slide is directions, and they're going to take all of these images and they're going to try to put them in order from largest to smallest. And then this lesson has a second layer, and I have it linked here, but I also have it linked back in my original document. So they're going to go to an amplify tool. So this is part of my curriculum, and I know we have a lot of different curriculums and different content areas. But if your digital curriculum allows linking directly to resources, then that link can be put directly into a HyperDoc. So then kids are going to use this tool, because they're learning about scale, to double check their answers where they've ordered those images from smallest to largest. And the overview video I gave them for this slide also shows them examples of how this tool works. So I'm going to go back into my slide deck. Again, there is a video of me talking right here that walks them through all parts of this lesson. And when they're finished, they have a text box here. We're going to list the objects from smallest to largest. The third step in our framework is for students to collaborate. Now, this is the first lesson in this unit, which makes sharing ideas and collaborating a little difficult because they've not got a lot of content to work with at this point. But I did want to integrate at least one digital tool that I've been excited about. And so the way that this would work is it's Flipgrid, and Flipgrid is a digital tool that makes it very, very easy for students to record video responses. Okay, so I have a video again that explains my digital tool. All right, in this part of the lesson, we are going to collaborate by sharing our ideas on Flipgrid. So in this part of the lesson, you are going to share your ideas with your classmates on Flipgrid by creating a video. So you're going to create a video sharing something new you have learned in this lesson or something you are excited to learn more about. Your video may be up to 1 minute in length. So what you're going to do is you are going to click the link for Flipgrid. When you log in with Flipgrid, using your school account, you should be able to see our grid. So you are going to click on record a response. And again, you're going to tell me something either that you have learned in this lesson or something you are excited to learn more about. Okay, so I have a tutorial on this slide that walks them through a new tool that we would not have used in class yet, which is Flipgrid. And this link in my slide would take them directly to where their student response needs to go. So it takes them directly to where it says record a response. Realize I didn't have my dates aligned there. It should say August 31st, but that's okay for the purposes of this video. The next step I have is apply learning. So here, if you notice, when you look at the template, instead of having 2 boxes here, I usually have a learning task and then a learning check at the bottom. This is a little different because I wanted them to make a slide within this slide deck because they're turning in the whole slide deck as an assignment. So what I have them doing, at this point, they've watched a video about microorganisms and had an introduction to the unit. They've sorted slides as an activity. They have then checked that with a digital tool, the scaling tool. And then they have made a video that will be shared with their classmates on Flipgrid. So the next part of the assignment is they need to create something. They're applying their learning by creating something. So again, this is my first lesson in this unit sequence. So what I have going on here is they're going to create a slide, okay? So the learning task I have put here is for today's assignment, you're going to create a microorganism slide. Your slide will explain microorganisms to a student who has never heard of them before. Make sure your slide includes a definition of microorganisms in your own words and gives information about 2 microorganisms that were not in the microbiome card sort. Please create your slide on the next blank slide in this deck. So I've left a blank slide that students can edit and modify, which will be part of their learning check for today. And then the last step in the framework is to give students the opportunity to reflect on their learning. So notice I've put a little GIF of E. coli over here, and then I just have 2 questions that I pulled out of my Amplify curriculum. What was surprising or interesting to learn about very small organisms and objects in today's lesson? And what other questions do you have about microorganisms? So this would finish out the learning sequence. And then I have another hyperlink here that goes back to my Canvas site where they will turn, since they've been modifying the slide deck as they've been working through it, they can submit this assignment. And so this is the assignment title. And I basically created a test group just to show you. It will take them directly to the place where they would submit that assignment. So the advantages of having a HyperDoc template like this to use is that you can jump from resource to resource relatively easily with students, but it's very organized and linear for them. So if you have concerns about how you're going to organize lesson plans in Canvas, this may be another way to organize that content so that students can go from activity to activity without getting confused about the directions or getting confused about what comes next. So this lesson plan template is going to be linked in the comments section for this video. So when you look in the comment section and you see this, this will be fully clickable and editable. Anywhere where you see the brackets is something that you're just going to delete out and put in your own. So it's already templated out to have the unit title, your essential question, your lesson title. You kind of walk through sort of what I've had. This is basically your learning targets, your success criteria. If you wanted to do a video overview, you would hyperlink it here. If you feel you don't need a video overview, this is a really good place to put a meme or a GIF or an image that would be engaging that would engage students for the topic of this lesson. Okay. So each slide tells you where you're at in the framework. You have some different options for putting a hook here. So you could use a comic strip, a meme, a GIF, a short video. And so for the reader research, you really want to be thinking about how students can build foundational knowledge or activate prior knowledge or understand key terms. So you want to locate a relevant resource that students could use. And then you would hyperlink it directly into the document here along with a task. So you could give them an article, for example, and ask students to annotate focusing on main ideas. Or you could give students something like a video and ask them to listen for certain things. So maybe you could actually read an article to them and ask them to listen for the who, what, when, where, why. So think about the resource and then the tasks you want to accompany with that. And then for the learning check, you have a couple of options. Like on my example, I had some where kids just typed in, I just inserted a text box into the slide deck. Or you could hyperlink if you're doing a formative assessment elsewhere. So this would be where you would link things like if they were doing a Flipgrid or if they were participating in a discussion board on Canvas, or if they're using some other type of resource to submit their work, you could just put in the hyperlink here. If you didn't need a learning check for this slide, you could just delete that box. For Explorer, it's a pretty similar setup. You're going to be thinking about resources that your students can explore. It could be one or two specific things you want to look at, or this is a really good place to insert a choice board where students can pick the resources they're interested in and then share back to the class in the next step about the specific resource that they picked. So again, you can expand learning task down, or maybe have more directions in the learning check, depending on how you want to alter these. You can include a tutorial if it's not a task if it's a task where they're using a new digital tool or they need more instruction. Having a video tutorial on the side helps. If you don't need that tutorial, it's a really good place to insert an engaging meme or image or GIF that is related to what they're learning. This slide, I just have share ideas at the top. So some things that you could hyperlink here would be discussion boards or Flipgrid when you're doing asynchronous learning. You could also link projects that have like a shared document. So you may have two students working on a Google slide together. You could also put put this with your conferences. So you could put your conference information and the time that it's going to occur and what the students need to be prepared for. So perhaps you could give them discussion questions that they may use in breakout groups, or students could prepare for a Socratic seminar. The next step in the framework is for students to apply their knowledge. So at this point, they have read or researched, they have explored resources, they've collaborated with their peers. So now they're going to apply that. And I put under learning tasks, describe the product your students will create. One of the nice things about having a virtual classroom is that you can really leverage digital tools to have students involved in the creation process. So you can have students create videos, and you can be creative. If they've been reading something, you could have them do a book review. If they've watched a documentary or a substantial video, you could have them do a movie review. You could have them do the video to do a monologue or a speech. You could have students work on podcasts. There's a lot of great tools out there to create comic strips, digital comic strips or storyboards. Or if you wanted to give students some non-tech time, you could describe a project that they could do at home with the materials they have and have them take a picture of it and submit it. So there's a lot of different ideas on the types of products students can create to demonstrate their knowledge. Another one that's out there that I'm excited about is I'm trying to teach myself how to learn how to use Canva. So we're using Canvas. It's Canva with no S, and it is really good for having students build infographics. So there's a lot of really neat things out there that kids can submit as products in a digital landscape. And then I have an area where you can link where you want them to submit the assignment. And again, if you need a tutorial, there's a space for that. If you don't need that, then you can just add something that visually enriches your slide. And the last step in the framework is to reflect. So I've kind of set this up where you could easily insert a prompt here and insert a text box. Or if you wanted to, you could insert a link that goes to a Canvas assignment or a reflection assignment on another site, again, like something like Flipgrid or perhaps a discussion board. So that is the Google Doc template. I mean, the Google Slide template. If that seems complicated, or if you just want to try something different, there is another template, and this template will also be linked as a for share in the comment section for this video. So this has most of the same structure of the Google Slide template. But this time we're using a Google Doc, and it's a little more linear and it's a little easier to type in, and it's a little simpler. So I think if you are an elementary school teacher, this may be an easier format to use and follow with your students. And again, this follows our digital framework for digital learning. So you have a place for a unit title. You have our essential question, our lesson title, and our guiding questions for the lesson at the top. You have a place to insert learning targets and success criteria. And so what I've done here is I've tried to make this very easy to follow. So I've inserted some icons. And so you would just put your task and use your hyperlinks right below your task. And if you have something either that you want them to type in the document, or if you want to link to another resource where they would complete their assignment, you can insert that here. Notice on this one, I do have comments. So when you click on it, it gives you some more information and ideas about what you could put in the read or research area. So you have read or research. Next, your students are going to explore. So we have a little image that shows a variety of different resources that goes along with the idea that students can explore a variety of different types of resources in this spot. So you would describe your learning task, and then you would give them the hyperlinks. You could insert a question for a learning check over the explore piece, or you could insert a HyperDoc, a hyperlink that goes to another digital tool where students might be completing their learning check. You have collaboration. So you can describe how students will exchange ideas. There is, again, you could do a hyperlink to a digital tool. This also works well if you want to do your collaborative piece in a synchronous lesson. You could do something like a Socratic seminar, breakout discussion groups. I've also really enjoyed doing different types of games with students. So in the spring, sometimes when we would have our meetings online, we would play Kahoot, or we would go to Quizlet or Gimkit, and just to kind of keep it fun and engaging for the kids. Next, you have your apply. And so really try to be creative about the types of products that kids can create in a digital landscape. There's a lot of really neat things out there. A place for them to, however you would like for them to submit it. And then it's very easy to do a quick write in the reflection spot. Just put your prompt, and you can have this where students type directly into the document. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show you is how to embed some of these resources into your HyperDoc template. Okay, so first, let's say that you wanted to use a GIF. So a great source for GIFs is to go to Giphy. I do not recommend sending students to this site because occasionally you will have things that might be inappropriate pop up. But as far as being a teacher, you can find a lot of really great GIFs that would fit along with your lesson. So today I'm kind of looking for things that go along with cells. So I'm going to type in the word cells, and I'm going to see if there's anything here that I find interesting. Okay, so for me, I think I'm going to choose this image, this GIF. So once I click on that GIF, I'm going to go to copy link, and I'm going to highlight the GIF link, and I'm going to click Control-C, and it tells me that the link is copied to my clipboard. Then I'm going to go back into my document, and in order to insert it, let's see, I want to insert it over here. So I'm going to delete this out, and I'm going to go into Insert, Image, and I'm going to click By URL. Okay. So this is the GIF I picked up from Giphy, and I'm going to click Insert. And then I can embed that right into my template, and I can resize it as needed. Okay. Next, I'll show you how to search for an image. So again, I'm going to delete this out. So you can just go into Google and search for an image and copy the URL and start by URL. But one of the nice features when you are in a Google slide is you can go to Insert Image and go to Search the Web. And when you do that, it's going to bring up a toolbar on your right-hand side. So let's say I wanted a picture of red blood cells. So I like a lot of neat pictures here. Actually like this one because it shows the shape. I usually tell kids that red blood cells look like balloons that have been pinched in on the top or the bottom, or they look a little bit like cough drops. So that lets you kind of see the shape, could let kids see the shape of some red blood cells. So again, in order to do that, I just did insert, image, and then search the web. You click on it, click insert at the bottom, and it will bring it right into your Google slide. And then you just resize it. As I mentioned, the template has all of these different text boxes. Sometimes you may need to make one smaller, make the other one larger. So that's easy to do just by resizing the box. If you noticed in mine, I had students type their answers. So usually if I'm going to put the question here, what I did is I went insert text box. And then I'm going to draw another text box within that text box. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to cue students where their answer goes. So once I have this, I'm going to click my little fill color bucket, and I want that white. And sometimes I'll put like your answer in that text box so that students know where they need to put their answer. You can go ahead and change your font, change your font size. I try to get it set close to what I want students to type their answer in because they're not likely to change that text size or font. If I wanted to delete these elements altogether, let's say I didn't want a learning check for this part. I just had a really long explore part and I was going to discuss those things during a collaborative project. So I didn't really need a learning check here. I could just drag down that learning task box and just leave that for this slide. Another feature I wanted to show you how to do. I used a lot of tutorials in my example. So if you've created your tutorial video in advance, I'm going to show you how to insert those. And again, I just use Google Meet. And I just ran it like there was no one in my meeting, but I could still use the record feature. So here are all the videos I've been recording and trying to do this tutorial. So I can just click on whichever video I want, select. It's going to put it in the middle, but I can resize. The other thing that I really like about this, let's say, you know, the beginning and end of videos are a little rough. So what you can do is when you watch your video, you can actually set a different start and end point. So if you have a little bit of dead space at the beginning of your video or at the end of your video, you just put what second point you want to stop that video at, and it will be edited out so students won't see that. So that is how you insert a video you might have in your Google Drive that you created in a Google Meet. You can also go to insert video, and you can do URL obviously, but you can actually just search YouTube directly. So I use a lot of Amoeba Sisters videos. So let's say I want to do the cell cycle. So I'm going to use this video. I would select it. And so I was able to add that video without ever even going to YouTube. Obviously, you should always preview your videos, but a lot of these videos I've been using for, I can't count how many years anymore. So I always know which video I'm looking at, and it's nice to have that option to add a video from YouTube without having to leave the Google slide, and just it's all embedded right there for you to search for a video, particularly a video that you've used for years. The last thing I want to show you to get you ready to use the HyperDoc template is how to force copy something. Because you don't want kids to be able to edit your slide master. So when you hit share and you go to copy link, okay? Let's say I wanted to copy that link here. So I'm going to type Google Slide presentation. I want to hyperlink it in. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to find my hyperlink button. Now, see how this says edit sharing? That will give kids the ability to edit your slide deck. I'm going to take this last piece all the way to the backslash. I'm going to leave the backslash, and I'm just going to put in the word copy. Okay. When I do that and students click on this link, it's going to force copy. Okay. The same thing happens in a Google Docs template. So when you click share, and you copy the link, say I'm going to put a link here. Going to highlight it. Go to my hyperlink button. When I go to paste it, everything after that last backslash, I'm going to delete. I'm going to write the word copy, hit apply. And now notice if a student were to click this, it forces a copy. Okay, well, that's all I have for you. I hope that you've enjoyed this session, and that hopefully this will give you a head start on how to easily use the distance learning framework to create engaging lesson plans for students, and how to organize those very easily into a whole lesson plan that students can easily move from activity to activity. Thank you.